So we're going to answer this question before us. It's asking us to sketch y is equal to 2 cos 2x minus 1 for x is an element of 0 to 2 pi. Now what makes this different is that fact that we have this minus 1 here, and that's causing a vertical shift down. So we've got a vertical translation. So just to show you really roughly what this means, you don't have to write this down, but let's just imagine our axes here. We've got a cos graph. So a cos graph looks like this. And what this is telling me is I'm taking the cos graph and I'm shifting it 1 down. So I'm there. Now, what makes this a real pain is the fact that we now need to find out what these x-intercepts are. And we can't rely on our x scale anymore. That scale, we actually have to solve for x by letting y be equal to 0. So that's where things become a little tricky when you're dealing with vertical translations. So let's launch into this. Let's see how we go and put all our working out. Okay, first things first, let's find what the amplitude is going to be. The amplitude is going to be 2. Let's find out what the period is going to be. The period is going to be 2 pi over 2, which is pi. Remember, you're taking that 2 and that's what you're dividing it by. Next, we're going to figure out what the scale is going to be. That's when you take the period and divide it by 4, and it's just going to be pi on 4. There's nothing more we can do with that. All right, now that we've done all of that, let's now figure out what our x-intercepts are going to be. So to figure out the x-intercepts, what do? Well, the x-intercepts are found when you let y be equal to 0. So I'm going to take this and set it equal to 0, and I'm going to get 2 cos of 2x minus 1. Once I've done that, hopefully you can see that this is solving a trigonometric equation, isn't it? First step, I'm going to rearrange so that I get this. Perfect. Once I've done that, I'm going to say, hey, I immediately recognize that I have a coefficient other than 1 in front of my x there. So what I'm going to have to do is say, let's pick a letter, let's pick m. Let m be equal to 2x. This is also where you need to consider the domain. So whenever you're solving trigonometric equations, you have to think, what is my domain? So the domain we were given was x is an element of 0 to 2 pi. So x is an element of 0 to 2 pi. Now, if I'm getting things in terms of m now, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to times this by 2, which means I have to times that and that also by 2. So that means I'm going to end up here with 2x is an element of 0 to 4 pi. Okay, once I've done that, now I'm going to say, well, this is going to be a half is equal to cos of m, and this is going to be m is an element of 0 to 4 pi. So this now is what I'm solving. So I'm going to ask myself, all right, what would my reference angle be for me to get cos of some angle to get a half out? So we think for a second, maybe you draw your special triangle, but what you should be able to recognize is that your reference angle here is going to be pi on 3. We also have to think, which quadrants am I going to exist in? Again, you might be able to do this in your head. You could just draw yourself a quick little unit circle here and recognize that I'm dealing with cos, so it's my x. I'm dealing with a positive cos, so I'm here. It's going to be my first and fourth quadrants. So that means my m is going to be pi on 3, because I'm in the first quadrant, and in my fourth quadrant, what is pi on 3 in my fourth quadrant? It's going to be 5 pi on 3. You also have to keep an eye on your domain. As you can see there, my domain is 4 pi. So that means I'm going to have to plus 2 pi onto both of these to fill this out a bit further. So I'm going to have to take this and plus 2 pi to it, and take this and plus 2 pi to it, because I need to get to my domain of 4 pi here. So what is pi on 3 plus 2 pi? Well, that's going to be 6 pi on 3. It's going to be 7 pi on 3. So too, 5 pi on 3 plus 2 pi is going to be 11 pi on 3. Perfect. I now need to get this back into x. I need to get it back into x. Now, remember, m is the same thing as 2x, isn't it? M is the same thing as 2x. So I could get rid of this m and say, you know what, this is equal to 2x. And if I therefore want to get it back into x, what I'm going to simply do here, and I'll grab another color yet again, is I'm going to times everything by a half. And by timesing everything by a half, I'll get what x is going to be. So let's come back over here. You can see how time consuming this is. This is pi on 6, 5 pi on 6, 7 pi on 6, and 11, whoa, that's a funny 11 pi on 6. We have now found the x-intercepts, which is going to be necessary for when we draw this graph. But we're not done yet, because next we need to find the y-intercept. So let's scroll back up here. So we've found the amplitude, we've found the period, we've found the scale, we found the x-intercept. Let's now find the y-intercept. Then we'll take a breath, and then we'll actually sketch it. So the y-intercept is going to occur when x is equal to 0. So that means I'm going to get y is equal to 2 cos of 2. I put 0 into the x spot here, minus 1. Y is going to be equal to, now this is 2 cos of 0 minus 1. What's cos of 0? That's 1. What's 2 minus 1? That is 1, everyone. Perfect. All right, let's take a step back and marvel at everything we've done here. I found my amplitude, my period, the scale. We found the new x-intercepts, and we have found the y-intercept as well. So now we're going to take all this information and we're going to sketch it.